Namaste, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're tuning into this broadcast from. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. So, if you are watching us for the very first time, welcome to the broadcast. Please do let us know where you are watching this broadcast from in the comments area. And be sure to join us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where we are streaming live today. So if you would like to join in the conversation, make sure you put your thoughts, your comments, your questions into the chat area wherever you are watching us from. So today we are going to be discussing a focus topic of Holi, the festival of colors, which is just coming around. So in this session, we will explore what Holi is, its significance, and how and when it is celebrated in the Hindu culture. So Holi is a vibrant and joyous festival that celebrates the arrival of spring and the triumph of good over evil. It's a time for friends and family to come together, play with colors, dance, and feast on delicious food. Our expert panel here will delve into the spiritual and cultural dimensions of this festival, exploring its deep roots in Hindu mythology and its modern day relevance in a changing world. They will also answer your questions about Holi and its traditions. So mark your calendars for the day of Holi, which is coming around very soon, and make sure that you have a great time celebrating this very fun festival. I'm going to share a little clip that we have prepared for you. And then after we watch this video, we'll come back and get started with the session for the day. Enjoy this. Great. So, as you all know, we are now coming up to the time for Holi. Holi is also known as the festival of spring, or the festival of colors, or also known as the festival of love.
We all like to, in a way, religions are a wonderful way of kind of bringing society together to celebrate. And festivals are a wonderful way of celebrating religious ideas. So nothing wrong with the idea of celebrating festivals. The important thing is this: for us to be more academic, we must recognize different festivals for different purposes. So let's start with Holi. Now, Holi festival has got two ideas. First, it is celebrating arrival of spring, so colors in on the scene. That's why we kind of sprinkle colored water, colored powder at each other to celebrate Holi. So this is one reason. The other reason comes from the mythological stories of Hinduism. It talks about Prahlad, who was being kind of tortured by his father, and the father was trying to kill him, get him kind of burnt in the fire. And on this day, Vishnu saved Prahlad. And again, this is called the day when Holika, the demoness who was trying to kill Prahlad, was demolished herself. These are the two reasons why we celebrate Holi. Now let me just give one caveat, health warning. We are in the coronavirus kind of territory. So if there is if a lot of people gather together, there's always a risk. So I would simply say, do celebrate, but be very careful regarding not coming too close to other people. There's a deeper vision of Holi, which I must mention. Holi in a way brings about equality in society, because on the holy day, you can sprinkle, colored powder or colored water on your teacher, on your grandmother, whoever you like, and they can't stop you. It brings real equality of genders, equality of age groups, and so in a way, Holi celebrates this equality of human beings by, throwing powder at each other. It doesn't matter who you are. This is the festival of Holi, seasonal idea.
So there we have it. What a wonderful festival we have in the Hindu calendar, much loved by many people because it is so vibrant and colorful and full of joy and fun. So to get us started with this topic, I'm going to invite our expert panel. So we've got Sitaben, Vijay Bhai, and I think Manish Bhai has just dropped off suddenly. So I will just ask a few questions meanwhile, as we wait for Manish Bhai to jump on. Sitaben, what are your memories of Holi over the years? What are some of the things you enjoy best?
I mean, I love the significance of Holi. Unfortunately, growing up in the UK, where it's quite cold and cloudy a lot of the time, we don't get to celebrate Holi in the way that probably people in India can. But I love the significance of it because colour is arriving on the landscape now. You see the flowers starting to bloom, the grass is getting greener, everything feels happier, moving away from this period of harsh winter. So I think it's a beautiful way to bring people together to celebrate the arrival of spring. And I also very much love the story of Prahlad, which is the sort of the mythological significance of the story of Holi. And it's basically where Prahlad is the devotee of Vishnu. He loves Vishnu right from his childhood, but his father is a horrible demon and he hates Vishnu. And he keeps telling Prahlad, stop praying to Vishnu. And the child says, no, I love Vishnu. And there's a beautiful story, which I won't go into currently, but it's a beautiful story of all the sort of trials and tribulations that his the demon father puts poor Prahlad through, like putting him through fire and trying to drop him off a cliff and trying to get him trampled by elephants. All of these things he tries to do to get rid of Prahlad because he's fed up of him talking about Vishnu all the time. But none of it works because obviously Vishnu is the one who saves the day. He is more powerful, and eventually Vishnu's had enough as well, and he comes in, comes as an avatar, comes as an incarnation to destroy him, basically. But yeah, it's a beautiful story and a lot of mythological significance, seasonal significance, and also community significance, because as Dad said in the video, it's time for real equality. It's not, oh, I must sort of show respect and reverence to you because you're older than me. It doesn't matter, you can throw coloured powder and water at everybody because everyone is human and we're celebrating humanity as well. Vijay bhai? Oh, sorry.
What is that phrase that they use? Bura mat mano, aaj Holi hai.
Ah, yeah. Brilliant.
Vijay bhai.
Hi, yeah, no, I think Sita is right. In this country, it's a bit more difficult to celebrate Holi outside because of the weather. But I know that local temple actually does celebrate inside it. Well, they have downstairs, they have a garage area, and then the children can participate. Because children love this festival. It's very exciting for them to throw colors, and celebrate the idea of, messing around in a way. Yes. So they do celebrate it, but it's not on a grand fashion as you see in India. I think the other thing also is that in India, at this time after Diwali, people actually sow their crops, and now they will harvest them. There's a winter harvest. At the same time, also flowers are coming out. So in a way, for India, it's very unique in that sense. At this particular time, I know in my Kutch as well, where I come from originally, a lot of people are going to take out I can't remember the name of the crop. I think it's Rabi crop. They're going to start harvesting their crop now, literally just around the Holi time. And they'll also offer it to the deities before they actually, some of the special stuff they'll offer it, then they'll consume it. So it's a very special time for India in that sense. Yeah. So it's a very good way to celebrate, the gifts, bounties of, nature in a way as well. So wonderful all in all. Yeah.
Superb. Thank you for, sharing with us what is Holi and what is its significance in Hinduism. Manish bhai, I will ask you one question, which is, how is Holi celebrated in different parts of India? We talked about here being a difficulty, but in India, I'm sure it is celebrated in a variety of ways.
Yes, it's very popular in India, so normally you would have the bonfire thing on the day of Holi, and next day people will throw colors on each other. And that is the main way. I think it's a festival of end of the season, so spring coming as well. So you would have people offering many crops into the fire that is lit, and worship Vishnu through that fire as well. Not sure many other ways in India. Maybe Vijay bhai can help that.
Vaisakhi?
No, Vaisakhi, yes. I think they celebrate also in Sikh tradition. Yes, yes. Similarly, yes, correct. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Sita Ben, one of my fondest memories of Holi used to be the delicious foods and sweets that we used to have. Would you mind sharing with the viewers what are traditionally some of the foods and sweets prepared during Holi?
So I'm not too familiar, but I know things like coconut are used, And as Manish Bhai said, you have a bonfire, and you're kind of paying reverence to Vishnu at this time. And children are taken as well to celebrate this festival, particularly because it's a very colourful festival where they can feel engaged with their religion, but also it's a way of saying, look, Prahlad was a child and he was, under the protection of Vishnu. So in the same way that Prahlad was protected by Vishnu, we want our children to also be protected by Vishnu. So there is a significance to that as well. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with the specific foods around Holi. I don't know.
I'll share my memories.
Yes.
So around this time, we used to have something called gujia, which are like little sweet snacks which are fried. We used to have a puran puri, which is sweet stuffed chapatis. We used to have malpua and thandai. And thandai was my favorite one because it's a really delicious drink. But when I think of Holi, I just think of desserts, sweet stuff. Okay, wonderful. So, Vijay Bhai, what are some of the traditional games and activities that are played during Holi?
Okay, I'm not sure of all the activities, but I know that they just celebrate generally. They go out and celebrate. I know that in also where I come from, they do a mela as well, a huge gathering, and everybody comes and sells trinkets, toys. And of course, there are a lot of children as well by the village dam, what they call it, the village pond, where the cows, and there is a lot of people who play various kind of games. I think kabaddi, and then dancing as well is quite common. The Ras, they play Gujarati Ras. That is quite common as well. But the main thing is the mela, which is that's very popular.
Yeah. So exactly. This is exactly what it is, like a fun fair that people gather around. And one of the highlights is where they would have this, throwing of the colors on each other and so on. That's the highlight of the festival as well. So so it's usually bright, vibrant colors in the blue, yellow, magenta, cyan, and so on. Very interesting thing. So, Manish, over the years, how do you see the celebration of Holi having evolved?
To be sure, I haven't seen much evolution. It's just maybe people will play nowadays Bollywood songs and dance to them. But they would still have the bonfire and coloring each other similar with colored powders. So with Holi, I don't see there is not that much change.
I think the one change I have seen is the change of the colors to become the ones which are not permanent colors, and also skin-friendly colors and so on, because lots of people are very sensitive about the skin and also the clothing getting spoiled. But that's some of the fun part of the festival anyway. So we talked about some of the things earlier on, Sitaben, but would you mind sharing once again, what are some of the legends and the stories associated with Holi? Again, this is in the context of for the viewers who don't really know much about the festival.
So I mean, just touching on Prahlad basically. So the name Holi is actually a shortened version of the name Holika, and there was a demoness who happened to be the aunt of this little boy Prahlad, and she was, obviously trying to help out her brother, because her brother was like pulling his hair out. Then why does my son keep talking about Vishnu all the time? I don't like this. Vishnu's a god, and we're demons. We don't like gods. So anyway, he called his sister, who had some magical powers that she could burn anything that she touched. So the plan was that she would ask Prahlad to go and sit on her lap, so that eventually, she's going to be safe because she can light the fire, but actually Prahlad would get burnt. That was the plan. But because Vishnu is so incredibly powerful, Prahlad went and sat on her lap, and actually the powers reversed. So Prahlad was safe and Holika got burnt. So that's kind of the logic about having the bonfire, is that, Vishnu protected Prahlad. Even though he was in the middle of a fire, he was untouched, he was safe. And, that's why we bring children to the bonfire as well, to say, please bless our children, please protect our children as well, in the same way that, you protected Prahlad, basically. So even though it's a mythological story, it's a nice way to remember God in our everyday lives, to kind of make it a bit more practical. So in a way, by lighting a bonfire, by doing all these rituals and ceremonials, this sort of idea of religion becomes, becomes a reality. It's not just some theory in a book. It's something that you can go to, you can enjoy with the community, because that feeling of being with the community is itself a spiritual experience, because you're connecting with other people who are also spirit, also divine. So that's also uplifting in itself. Another sort of concept which comes from this story of Holika and Prahlad is basically because Prahlad's father had a boon, which was probably regrettably given by all of the other gods, that he could not be killed by any man or by any animal. He could not be killed in the daytime or in the nighttime. He couldn't be killed inside the house or outside the house. So he kind of safeguarded himself. He thought very carefully, how can I make sure that I don't get killed by anyone or anything? So he'd made this wish, and it was difficult to break this wish, but Vishnu came along and said, listen, I've had enough of this demon now causing havoc and upsetting poor little Prahlad. So Vishnu came down as an avatar, as an incarnation of half man, half animal, so half man, half lion, and he came to kill, Prahlad's father Hiranyakashipu in the dusk, so it's not daytime or nighttime, and he killed him on the porch, so it's not inside the house or outside the house. So Vishnu was very clever in finding a way around this boon. But again, you have to remember, this is a colourful story. We don't literally believe it to be true, but it's just an interesting, colourful story to get children and young people engaged in the idea of religion. Vijay-bhai, Manish-bhai, anyone?
I think all I can add is the story. One thing which comes out of the story is the idea of faith, unwavering faith, which you see with the story of Vishnu and Prahlad, because you see, despite all the trials and tribulations, I mean, he was living Prahlad was living in an environment where everybody was against what he was doing. Yet he didn't waver despite all the trials and tribulations he faced. He's wavering, and Shraddha, the idea of faith in God did not waver. That's one thing we kind of learn as well. And that's one thing that a lot of people in the Bhakti tradition use as an example to have unwavering faith in the Supreme Lord, that he will always be there for you, as just he was there for Prahlad. So it's quite an interesting story of faith in that sense. Yeah. Manish bhai?
Yes, just to say that regarding this unwavering faith is this idea that if you are, one with God and surrender yourself to God, then God will protect you come what may. So it is seen in many of the saint stories as well, that somehow they get protected. And it's wonderful to see. But does it happen to everyone? What's idea behind this God protecting everyone, Vijay-bhai?
I think this is most of the Puranic stories, you see that idea that God actually protects his devotees. As a matter of fact, he comes running to his devotee. If devotees got so much faith in him, God cannot help but go and save his devotee. So in that sense, Prahlad was such a very firm devotee of Vishnu. The Vishnu could not but help himself, right? He had to go and save him. But you see this across many stories, and this is the beautiful thing about a lot of these Puranic stories. They may not be literally true, but the message behind it, the idea of showing love for God, compassion for his human beings. There's up-teen stories if you look in the Puranic stories. Yeah, Vishnu and his devotee, Vishnu and the farmer, Vishnu and Narada. All these stories of lovely stories. We show that we should the idea of relationship with God and how God protects us. So that's the main, I think, message in this story. And you can see that in the whole story, as Sita mentioned, elephants didn't work, the cliff didn't work, all these stories, nothing worked on Prahlad. Why? Because he had unwavering faith in Vishnu, and Vishnu was always there. Eventually he came in person, not just, from indirectly. He actually came in person, as you know the story. It's a very beautiful story in that sense. Yeah.
So, as we go over time and things evolve, it is important sometimes to preserve and promote our cultural heritage and traditions. So how do you think we would be able to do that, not only in India as things evolve, but here, even in the rest of the world? You rightly said that it's not so easy to celebrate Holi here as you would there. But certainly we can managed to keep the main traditions alive. How do you suggest we can do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we have to do is we have to kind of merge the old with the new. So we don't want to lose our ancient roots and links that we have, which are very good. I mean, you have to be rational about it, but it's good to know your history and where the festival comes from. At the same time, of course, you have modern challenges, challenge of loneliness, challenge of, people of stress, because the world is different now. So perhaps Holi can be evolved in the sense that we can show that how Allah, Prahlad has tremendous patience with his, father, despite all that, and yet he persevered. So we can find new messages from the stories which are kind of related to the modern day, I guess, and try and bring this in the forefront, kind of bring the story in different. And Hinduism allows that for us to do that, right? To see things in a modern context. So perhaps that's a one way of looking at, getting new ideas on how we can bring Holi in, which is benefit society. But yes, I mean, other thing I guess is also like now we have a lot of issues in UK where we have a lot of problem with food not being available. A lot of people on on food banks. Maybe we can bring the idea that in a way, it's harvest festival as well. So perhaps some of the harvest, there's no harvest here, obviously, because, but at least we get something. So, okay, in Holi we'll give something away as part of food some beer. So there's many ways we can use to modernize. But yes, it's a good idea that we bring it in the modern world, obviously. At the same time, keep ancient roots. Sita?
Tradition and innovation, that is the name of the game.
I guess, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Sita,
Yes, I mean, I think as if you're a child, it's really wonderful to hear these stories because they make religion attractive and colourful for you. And especially as a child, you need to have these tangible personalities of all these gods and goddesses to make religion feel real. Because if you start telling a child principle-based Hinduism, they might be like, what's this, and run away. So it's nice to have these colourful stories, but we have to also be prepared for them to grow. And as they grow, they're going to start questioning things. Because if we present these stories as being literally true, that's going to present a real problem. So as they grow older, we explain to them, look, this is a colourful mythology to help us understand the idea of religion and God. But then as you grow up, why don't you sort of evolve yourself and move away from storytelling to looking at the philosophy, which makes so much more sense? Because, there are so many sort of, gaps in the story. If you try and analyze it and rationalize it, there are so many things that don't make sense. How can God come down to earth as half man, half lion? There are so many things like that. But let your children query it. Don't say, no, you must believe in this because this is what our scriptures say. Hinduism is not like that. Allow them to question, allow them to grow, and explain that this is a mythology. Now start looking at the philosophy as you grow up. So Hinduism is incredibly open and vast because we've got such a variety of different ways of approaching the spiritual needs of everybody.
Super. Manish bhai, we discussed earlier that, this is the one festival where anybody is fair game. So could you discuss a little bit about the role of Holi in promoting community and family bonding and how it helps to strengthen social ties?
Yes, it's a very important festival in that sense. In India, especially, people used to color each other so much and they have so much fun. They would even color the enemies and they will forget about the enmity and they will become friends again. So it brings people together in no uncertain terms. When you're coloring each other and you are having fun, you forget about all the, differences between people. And that way, if the family, they play Holi together, they will all feel that bond together. And similarly, if you are celebrating with wider community, it brings everyone together. And it's one joyous occasion where everyone comes together. So it's a wonderful, festival of equality. And little children can have fun with, their grandparents even. And that way, the ice is broken in a way, and you bring the real community cohesion there.
Absolutely. It is certainly a unique festival in that sense. Vijay bhai, so could you share with us a little bit about the spiritual and philosophical significance of Holi, how it embodies the principles of love, compassion, and forgiveness?
I think in this case, the story, I guess, in terms of Holi, as Manish mentioned, the idea is to forget our differences. And that's one of the ways when you color everybody, you lose the idea of people's, what color they are, who they are. So in a way, it brings out respect for everybody else, regardless of who you are. So that is a very beautiful thing in terms of Holi, and it's a very good time because it's one of time when maybe not nowadays because we get food 24/7, but when the harvest was good, it was seen as a gift of the gods, right? You can imagine if you're living in ancient times when people are struggling for food and you get a beautiful harvest at this time, you're going to enjoy it, right? You're going to celebrate. So of course, at that time is joyous occasion. You thank God. You try and see, look, there is good in this world. It's not just tough life. It can be good life as well, and share that joy with everybody else. So I think that's the key message from Holi. So in that sense, I guess Holi is a very good time to see the positive in everything, right? Positive in nature, positive in humans, positive in everything, fun. The whole lot is a kind of a very positive ambience in that sense for everything, I guess. Yeah.
Superb. Sita Ben, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that, religion isn't something that you have to practice in isolation in your little house. It's something where you can actually celebrate with the people around you. So, it's an opportunity for you to meet your friends and family, because otherwise life just rushes by and everyone is busy doing all sorts of things. So here is a chance for you to pause and take a break from that daily rush of life and say, let's all come together. Let's all dress up nicely. Let's all share lovely food. Let's all celebrate together, because that's one of the happiest times of life. That's how you create memories. So there's a very sort of human aspect to this idea of practicing religion and these idea of rituals as well.
Superb. So Manish bhai, one of the things with Holi is that over the years, we have seen things evolve. So now the festival has become a little bit more commercialized. So what is your thought on this commercialization of Holi and how has it impacted the traditional celebrations?
My experience in terms of staying in the West, I haven't seen, there are Holi parties being organized. And as long as people are having fun and have that equality and values carried together, we can understand there are costs involved in celebrating Holi if you are hiring a hall and doing things. As long as it's done in right manners and, if people are charged nominal amounts, I have no problem. But, it's when things start going overboard and people misbehave or, do things that they're not supposed to do, or say they have alcoholic drinks and do things that are not in line with the spirit of Holi, that should not be done. But as long as people are enjoying I have no problem with that.
Superb. So that's been a quick introduction to Holi. I'm going to hand over to Manish bhai to carry on with the rest of the Q&A session. And Manish bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Nishit bhai. Right, I have no questions already. Just seeing some messages from.
I have one more question while you get ready, sure. Which is, you know me, I'm a geek through and through. So Vijay bhai, Sita Ben, feel free to answer this one. How has technology and social media impacted the celebration of Holi?
I guess the only thing I can say is that people celebrate Holi via WhatsApp messages or online. That doesn't really add up to really proper celebration. I think this is something regarding everything we do. There's a lot of time. I think it's very important. Sita mentioned, actually, that mentioned a couple of times. Interaction with fellow humans is very, very important. And that is lost, it's via the messaging. So I guess that in a way is changed. I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you can't make it, but try and get together. That's very important. I think people forget that when you meet somebody, the contact you have, the eye contact you have, the unconscious smells you have, everything, with food and everything, is totally gone with with the online stuff. But so I think in that sense, we have to try and bring that back in a way, because we do a lot of words. I know most people can't even write properly anymore because they just type in. They can't even hold a pen to write something. I mean, I'm trying to make an effort. I got a pad of, writing pad. So I write people, birthday letters now, because you forget to hold a pen, So I think that's something that we have to be careful. As Manish mentioned, we have to be careful about all these things, because also regarding commercialization, which Manish mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of countries, even India, the government will take advantage of this because they won't have revenue, right? They want to show economies moving and churning. So they're going to encourage shops to sell and get people to buy things and for them to collect their so-called GST revenues or whatever to show. And it's true, actually. They have noticed that whenever there's festival, the revenues go up, the government revenues, yeah, because people buy things, a lot of things, right? So in a way, how do you make sure you're still spiritual in your celebration? At the same time, you don't get too absorbed in this commercialization or whatever, right? So there's a lot of issues, challenges, I think. But the key thing is, I think, if you stick to one important point, that human relationships are above everything. Sorry to say, I know you're a geek, but it's above any kind of technology. If you keep that in mind, then I think you're fine. And make that effort, because a lot of people can't even talk to others anymore. They find it difficult to talk because they've never spoken verbally. These are the challenges we have. So yeah.
Fantastic. Sitaben, I see a few of the viewers talking about, issues with the colors. Not like I said, they've got allergies to colors because the colors contain maybe things like gluten and so on. It causes an allergy reaction. And others are complaining that, it takes about 2 days or so for the color to come out of their face and, hands and so on. So in that sense, what are some of the environmental concerns associated with Holi and how can they be addressed? I mean, what are some of the things we can do? Like, natural colors from turmeric, beetroot, and things like that? Or what are the other ways we can handle this?
Yeah, I think you've already answered the question. So, I mean, the thing is, Hinduism is incredibly, it evolves with the times. So I know, for example, with Diwali, we were talking about the idea of fireworks and, the environmental issues around fireworks. So, there's more and more awareness around environmental issues, and that doesn't exclude the idea of religion and celebrating religious festivals. So yes, these days people seem to have a lot more allergies than previous generations, and we have to sort of cater for those needs as well. So as you said, Nishit, we use if we can use natural colouring, natural food dyes, this kind of thing, which doesn't cause so much staining, which doesn't have such an allergic reaction, then it's obviously better for everybody. So we just have to keep evolving with the time, adapting to the requirements of the people around us. And that's essentially what religious or spiritual living is all about, taking into consideration the needs of the people around us and making sure we're living for them and we're not making things difficult or inconvenient for them as well. So in every aspect, through fireworks, through the colours that we use for Holi, we make sure that they are suitable for the people around us to the best of our ability.
Fantastic. Manish Bhai, over to you now.
Thank you, Nishit Bhai, for your wonderful presentations. So we take a next question from, I'll just share some messages. Charmaine saying, colors are now being made organically with beetroot, turmeric, even carrots and orange pumpkins. So that's wonderful to see. And that is the way to go. And that's a good evolution happening. H saying, I love Holi. After playing Holi, it takes me 2 days to remove all the colors from my scalp, nose and ears. That's wonderful to hear. We take next question from Bhav Sahib. He's saying, was Ram and Krishna human like you and me, or they came from so-called heaven? Sitaben?
Yes. So, I mean, my dad was also asked this question, and he's produced some videos on this as well. So, I mean, from our thinking, we think that Ram and Krishna were probably real individuals, real people who lived on the face of the earth, and we're blessed that they did. And that because the fact that they've had such a tremendous impact over so many hundreds and thousands of years suggests that actually these were enlightened individuals who have had a tremendous impact on humanity. The fact that Hindus to this day see Ram as a role model suggests that it wasn't some kind of make-believe personality, there was a real personality there. But the thing is, when we look at the stories around these individuals like Ram and Krishna, we see that there's a lot of mythology interwoven into their stories. And we have to be very careful in understanding that, you know, it's very unlikely that there was a personality called Ravan who actually had 10 heads. We have to look at it rationally and see what makes sense. There probably was a personality called Ram, but he probably didn't walk around with, you know, in the forest with like crowns and jewels and all of that. He would have dressed much more simply. So it's all of these embellishments which get added onto their stories, which make us wonder were these real personalities or not. But I mean, our thinking is, yes, they were real personalities, but the stories have become embellished and colourful over time as they are told and retold from generation to generation. So I think it's beautiful and inspiring to think that there were such powerful personalities like Ram and Krishna who lived on Earth. Vijay Bhai, any thoughts?
I think this question actually can be asked in many different ways. All I can say that the land of India is so special. It's the only land which I can ever say that a human being or a person can, through his deeds, become a god. That's one thing you see in India a lot, because so in a way, at least in the other tradition, everybody's divine, but for some people, the divinity actually flowers and shows vibrantly across. So I think there's no doubt that, I mean, if you look at historical lineage we have, I doubt that, I have no doubt that Ram and Krishna did exist. But you have to, of course, as time goes by, people add stories, make new stories. Don't forget, we have 100 different variations of Ramayana, not just one, and they'll all change and add and change and add. So things will change. But it's good to know that even at that ancient time, there were people who had upholding dharma, where we would not have thought that people that far behind would think of orders and dharma, respect for humanity. So many people believe we're living in a kind of a hunter-gatherer society. But to see these stories come through, endearing stories, because of the great character, because of the wonderful knowledge they pass down to all of us, that's what makes them endearing. If there is no other God, then what is? That's what I would say.
That's wonderful to hear, Vijay Bhai, Sita Ben. So this idea of avatar, what we see Vijay Bhai saying, that everyone is eventually an avatar, and we are all unfolding spiritually to hopefully get there one day. So what is your thought behind this? Ram and Krishna, when we see, and their personality so grand and so spiritual, and in Vaishnavism, they'll say you can never be equal to Ram or Krishna. And then there is this idea that everyone is an avatar. What's your take on it, Vijay Bhai?
Oh, well, I mean, India is very, Hinduism is very pluralistic in its nature. So we have both views. I mean, you'd be surprised, even in the case when you believe Vishnu or Krishna is Supreme Lord and we are not, even in that case, we are not some slaves, right? We are part and parcel of God. That's a very important point to remember. Even when you achieve moksha, you're kind of very close to them, and you always fixated on the beautiful image, beautiful name. So you're almost like one with them. You're not exactly the same, one, almost same. So really speaking, if you look at it very deeply, there's not that much difference. And the idea of Advaita, of course, believes that everybody's latent, Atman. Everybody is divine, divinity is latent in them. They just got to come out and understand the divinity. And we have great examples, like Anand Mahima, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Raman Maharishi, great personalities have actually done that. In a way, those are signposts. If they can do it, so can we. That's what I was saying earlier, that, it's beautiful to see that humans can become gods. I mean, people keep on asking this question, why God only in India? Because in India, everybody is a god indirectly. And by the way, even in Buddhism, you're surprised. If you ask a Buddhist, he'll say that everybody is a latent Buddha in them. It's latently in there. They just got to make it active, basically. Yeah. So it's not unique to only Hinduism. It's unique to all dharmic, ideas. So in a way, that's the idea. People have different ways of thinking about it, and they're all fine. Ultimately, it's just a play. Ultimately, they're very, very similar. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me of what Swami Vivekananda says. He said that each soul is potentially divine, and the goal is to manifest that divinity, to bring it out, to bring out that majesty and that sparkle. That's the aim of our human life, even though we go about thinking, I must fulfill this aim and this aim, all these material goals that we all have. But ultimately, we are all on the same trajectory towards realizing that divinity. And we all take very different pathways. As you said, Manish Bhai, the Vaishnav tradition is very much like, I can never see myself as God. But then if you actually look at it philosophically, the conclusion of your love for Ram or Krishna or whichever deity it is, the conclusion of that love is that you can no longer see yourself apart from that God, and you eventually merge into that image of God. So what great majesty, what great beauty in that way of thinking. And similarly, you don't even need to think about any of these gods and goddesses. You might love humanity, and as long as you can see yourself in others, you have sort of reached that point of infinite expansion. And that's essentially what spirituality is all about, rubbing away this idea that I am this little person here, and just seeing yourself in everyone and everything. That's the goal of spirituality, is this infinite expansion.
That's so wonderful to hear, Sitaben. And Festival of Holi can help with that celebration of humanity and celebration of avatar in everyone. We take a next question from Jats for YouTube. He's saying, if God created everything, what was the need to have various religions with different scripts and languages? Must have been man-made invention that distorts the original knowledge. What's your take on this, Sitaben?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, because if you think about it, you think of spirit, you think of this like vast, infinite expanse called spirit. But then somehow or other, when it comes encapsulated into this little universe of ours, it's sort of, there's a lot of issues which come up with the universe that we live in. There's all this differentiation, there is inequality, there are differences of opinion, everyone looks different, even though it's the same spirit that's manifesting and percolating as this very varied universe. And I think that's just the name of the game. This is how the cookie crumbles, is when we are in this framework of the universe, this differentiation is unavoidable. This is how the cookie crumbles. And this is why we have so many different interpretations of the idea of religion and spirituality, because all of us have got very different journeys. We've all been through the journey of reincarnation. We've all had very different life experiences, and they make us all very different individuals. And that's why these ideas of spirituality get expressed in very different ways. But the beautiful thing is that they are all different expressions of the same one spirit. So we have to recognize and celebrate that, rather than see it as a cause for conflict in humanity, which unfortunately it has been for so many thousands of years. But we have to try and see beyond the differences and see that unity percolating underneath.
All I can add is that I think one thing we have to keep in mind is that actually, although the universe is created per se, the Atman is not. Atman is always transcends space, time, and causation. We are stuck, as Sita said, in a material journey. Where we experience all this diversity and various things. Ultimately, when you come out of it, it actually really doesn't. It's not that as important, because your Atman, which transcends all this, is far more important. That's all I can add to that. Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear, Sitaben Vijay. Next question is from Jitesh Dattani. He's saying Holi is generally celebrated in North India, but not much in South India. Why is that, Vijay?
I guess it's just tradition again. Yeah. I mean, I think from what I know now, they do celebrate, because I had some people I know who are actually Tamil. They do celebrate now. They start celebrating. But you're right, it's mainly Northern India. Maharashtra is popular, and also other northern states of India. But again, I think it's maybe perhaps it's a Vishnu tradition, because in South India, Murugan is more popular, Lord Ayyappan is more popular, Shiva tradition more popular. So I guess there'll be some variation, which is part of India. I mean, if you look at Durga Puja, it's very, very popular in Bengal, right? Other parts of India, they celebrate a smaller scale, but some places larger scale. So it's just a question of diversity of India. That's how India is kind of, evolved over the years. And because we appreciate diversity and respect all these different traditions. So I guess in that sense, it's just how it is. Not much to add on that, Sita.
Yeah, not much more to add. I mean, I think that's another reason why it's so beautiful to have so many different people with different, preferences and traditions and all of that, because it makes everything much more colourful. Everyone's got different emphasis. And when you bring it all together, it makes the whole tapestry much richer.
Okay, we take a next question from Otsatuts. He's saying, Swami Vivekananda predicted that India will be great once again, and will even become more popular, and all the great things. We see his rise in Hindu phobia and many other problems, and Hinduism really struggling in a way. What's your take on it, Sitaben?
To be honest, I'm optimistic. I look at Swami Vivekananda's words like he is so incredibly insightful. Like, for me anyway, I really feel like there is a lot of depth and a lot of truth to his words. So I'm hopeful that what he has said is true. And what makes me hopeful is that when, I've been lucky to have Dad as my dad, and from him, I've learned the incredible depth of Hindu philosophy, how vast it is and how relevant it is to the world today. Because, we have all these gods and goddesses, yes, which have been wonderful and served a purpose for Hindus for thousands of years. But it goes beyond that. We have this principle-based spirituality, which is so much more universal and applicable to the whole world. And the fact that, you know, we don't have any sort of restrictions or boundaries with this idea of spirituality is something that's promoted through Hindu philosophy, and hopefully it can benefit the world in the days to come. So I'm hopeful. Vijay bhai?
All I can say is I'm also very, very optimistic. I think the thing is that we have to, if you look at, you know, when I was reading Vivekananda's works, right? I used to have the same ideas when I was young, that I see Hinduism is struggling, Hindu phobia. We have these mission religions which are aggressive in their promotions. They like to, but you know, if you look at it carefully, ultimately, human beings want to free themselves from shackles. They don't want to follow a book blindly because it says something in a medieval book. Doesn't matter which religion, it says you must do it. Humans will break, and they already have. Look at the Western world. They are living religions which are based on, you know, absolute truths. They will not accept absolute truths. Even science doesn't accept absolutes. They accept relatives, right? So everything is different for everybody. So if you look at from a deeper angle and look at very closely, people are going away from absolute faith. They don't want to get stuck. Once they get more knowledge, more, you know, understanding of the world, the science progresses, how far are you going to stick to a message is stuck in an absolute, that the string is getting longer and longer, at some point it will snap. And I think Vivekananda could see that at that time. If you look at his lectures, he could see that. So we're not saying Hinduism as a religion, as everybody has to follow it, but it's profound ideas of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, more apt. They already, you can see them in the public as today, because most public find their own ways. If you ask a lot of people in the West today, are you religious? They will say no. Are you spiritual? They'll say yes. So it's already happened. The ideas of Vivekananda, which he said are already going in society. Without using the word Hinduism. So in a way, the message of Swami Vivekananda is actually the culmination of human spirit, not tied to something external out there, on your own legs. That spirit is flowering. And that's the beauty about his message. And I think, I know it sounds like that, I actually get worse initially, because if Hinduism in India comes up as a state, I'm telling you now, there'll be a lot more pushback. Because in a threat to a lot of mission religions who are aggressive to change the world, they believe in the day of judgment and that will come someday. And they'll not come when the whole world is a particular belief. But the thing is, I'm sorry to say that you'll face more of these as India comes up economically and, you know, spiritually. You'll face this. But I think eventually Hinduism idea is so profound. In a way, it gives so much freedom for a person to choose how they process spirituality, that it'll just come out eventually. So I'm quite optimistic in that.
It's wonderful to hear, Vijay bhai. We got a question from last question for today from Trushar Bhai Patel. He's asked, could the Hindu Academy team please share their favorite color? So start with you, Vijay bhai.
I don't know. I've always liked green for some reason. I guess it's nature. I just love greenery everywhere. Green color is, I mean, I think when I was growing up in Kenya, especially, when the rains come, you know, when there's no rains, it dries, everything's brown, whatever. When the rains come, everything, you know, becomes green. And I always love that color of nature. You know, if you go to Masai Mara, or even in my school where I study, all the trees, leaves, you know, come out green. It's wonderful. That's my color. But of course, it's just a color in that sense. Yeah, that's me. Yes.
Sita bhai?
Yes, I mean, I love red. I've always loved red ever since I was a child. But it somehow kind of fits with this like Hindu idea that red is a auspicious color as well. So I've always loved red. Manish bhai?
Sure. I like the blue, and also I like pink as well. When I was little, I used to love pink. So that's my colors. We do a quote for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Sorry, we cannot take any more questions for today as we have come to the end. I'm trying to share today's quote, if you bear with me. Okay, we share a quote from Sri Ramakrishna. He's saying, although God resides in all human beings, still there are good men and bad men. There are lovers of God and those who do not love God. We should recognize divinity in all, but we should not mix with bad people or with those who do not love God. our relation with them must not be very close. It is wise to avoid company of such people. So a different quote for the day. Hope you have a blessed and wonderful Holi festival, everyone, and hope to see you next week, where we're planning to carry on with second chapter of Sri Ramakrishna story. So hope to see you all. Have a nice week, everyone. Bye from everyone. Okay.